What's up, guys? Alex here with RJ OCD Recovery. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how your diet and nutrition could be influencing and contributing to your experience with retroactive jealousy and OCD. Now, before we get into this video, why should you care and take anything that I have to say seriously? I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I have been studying nutrition for over 6 years up to this point. Now, beyond me experiencing retroactive jealousy, relationship insecurity, and obsessive compulsive disorder, I have had a long history with a number of chronic health conditions, other chronic health conditions, including chronic fatigue syndrome, small fiber neuropathy, multiple chemical sensitivity, fibromyalgia, and many others. It wasn't until I addressed my nutrition that these conditions started to resolve and heal. And beyond just those physical conditions, I have noticed that the more that I have focused on healing my physical body with the food that I'm eating, the supplements that I'm taking, and everything food and nutrition related, my confidence is better. I have higher self-esteem. I have more energy. I'm happier. I feel calmer. I feel safer and more secure. And this is not a coincidence. This is not a mistake. Because when your body's chemistry and the chemistry in your brain and nervous system especially are working as they are supposed to and as nature designed them to be, your experience of life is good. It's of high quality. You have a greater capacity to handle hard things and to handle stress and things being up in the air, or the challenges of relationships. I hear what you might be saying. You might think this is totally crazy and unrelated and not really that important for you overcoming retroactive jealousy, but I assure you that it could make all the difference. If you are not supporting your physical health and your body's chemistry in the way that it is asking for, you are setting yourself up for failure in your relationship and in life in general. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing a wide range of different topics in the nutrition space. It might be a lot of information at first. So if some things are going over your head, don't worry about it. I just want you to be exposed to some of this information so you're at least familiar with it. And if you want to get further explanation or more information on these topics, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you out with this. You can also follow my other YouTube channel where I discuss nutrition, lifestyle, and all wellness topics, which I'll link down in the description below. All right, let's get into the video. All right, so here is your crash course on diet, nutrition, and retroactive jealousy. Let's get into it. The standard American diet, modern Western food, is absolutely horrible. It is abysmal. It is so tragic that the majority of people in the developed Western world and where I live in the United States, this is what most people eat. Processed, prepackaged foods that are toxic, filled with horrible ingredients. They're inflammatory. They're deficient in the things that you need. And we are seeing major consequences for eating this way. Nearly all of the modern diseases that we see today did not exist before we had food like this, before the Industrial Revolution and before big food corporations. And additionally, mental illness is at an all-time high. 1 in 5 Americans are on medication for anxiety, depression, or stress, and that number is going up and up and up each year. The mental health, especially of our youth and our children, is so bad. We should be so concerned about this and be wondering what the issue is. Hint, hint, it's the food that we're eating. So, why does our diet impact our mental health so much? Well, that's because 70% of your peripheral nervous system is located in your gut, along your intestines. And there's a reason why this is. Your body needs a lot of energy and attention around your digestive organs in order to maintain its survival. But because of this, what we eat directly impacts our nervous system and our brain and our mental health. If your gut is inflamed, your nervous system will subsequently be inflamed. If you have poor gut health and poor digestion, you cannot be healthy. You cannot. It's impossible. But the point that you need to take here is that your food can either nourish you or it can damage you and limit your absorption of nutrients and make you sick, leading to you being sick. All right, so let's talk about the gut microbiome and the immune system. So each one of us has trillions of tiny little microscopic bacteria, viruses, parasites, and more inside of us. And this makes up the gut microbiome. Now, these little buggers do everything for us. They detoxify, they regulate blood sugar, they create B vitamins, they fight off invaders, they do all sorts of amazing, wonderful things to help keep us alive. And your immune system, the ingenious system of microbes, bacteria, different cells that keeps you alive and fights off invaders, is totally regulated by the microbiome. So they fit very, very tightly together. If you have good immunity because you have a strong immune system, you will have vibrant and strong health because basically you're not at the mercy of things in your environment that are trying to take you down. And nothing influences the state of our microbiome more than the food that we eat, okay? Because the majority of our microbiome is in our colon, our intestines. Modern diet and lifestyle are extremely harmful to the microbiome, and this can lead to gut dysbiosis or bacterial overgrowth, which is basically when you have too much of a certain type of bacteria or families of bacteria overgrowing, and when this happens, you're basically out of balance. And when you're out of balance, all hell can break loose and you get all sorts of potential health conditions. So the quality of our microbiome, how balanced it is, directly influences our quality of life, how we experience life. So as you have learned, the nervous system, the immune system, and the microbiome are all connected very closely together, located in your gut with your digestive organs. An imbalance in the microbiome and in the immune system can lead to a systemic inflammatory response, where you basically get these inflammatory molecules known as cytokines or inflammatory immune cells. So you have an inflammatory response if the microbiome is out of balance for whatever reason, poor diet, stress. And this inflammation that you're experiencing in the gut inflames your nervous system. And this inflammation can travel up the vagus nerve, which is the longest and largest nerve connecting the gut to the brain. Inflammation in the gut equals inflammation in the nervous system and the brain. You cannot separate the two. And this quote here basically translates to healthy mind, healthy body. You really cannot have one without the other. And even Hippocrates, who is one of the founders of medicine thousands and thousands of years ago, stated that all disease starts in the gut. I think he was onto something. Okay, so next up is blood sugar regulation. So essentially, your blood carries sugar or glucose molecules throughout your entire body in order to provide energy wherever it might be needed. It uses this glucose as energy. And it just so happens that your brain is very dependent on sugar to maintain proper function. So your glucose levels are going to rise and fall based on your behaviors, your environment, and the food you eat. Modern diets, unfortunately, are extremely high in sugar and carbohydrates, which make blood sugar regulation extremely difficult. They're very highly glycemic, and what that means is that the amount of sugar that is created or absorbed when the food is consumed is very high. It immediately gets converted into glucose. And so your body has to take care of that high level of glucose. And in addition to this, toxins in our food and in our environment can make the pancreas sluggish and damage it, which is very problematic for regulating blood sugar because you'll have a more difficult time creating insulin, which is the most important hormone for that process. So if you happen to eat a bunch of high glycemic foods, like basically just pure sugar or candy or starchy foods as well, this can be very dangerous for the body to sustain this, and it needs to take care of it by pumping the blood full of insulin. However, if your body makes too much insulin too quickly in too quick of a response, the blood sugar can get way too low, and then the brain does not have enough energy that it needs because your body has pushed all of the sugar into the cells, out of the blood, where it can be too dangerous. And when your blood sugar gets too low, the body recognizes this, that it has to pump more sugar out into the blood so that the brain and the other organs can keep doing their thing. So your body will release cortisol and adrenaline to push this blood sugar up. But you then experience symptoms that are similar to an adrenaline rush because you're getting pumped full of stress hormones. So you'll feel all jittery and nervous. You'll have a rapid heart rate or anxiety. You might be familiar with these sort of blood sugar crash symptoms after eating a meal. And this is because your blood sugar is all over the place, huge peaks and valleys. And that's coming directly from the type of food that you're eating. So if you see down here, you might be on this sort of magenta or purple line here where you're going up with a big spike and then you crash and then you have to eat food to feel better again so you can focus and get back to work. But then you're on this roller coaster all day, where really ideally you want to be on this green path, this green line, where you're in an ideal range, where you're on a blood sugar molehill. You're not all over the place. You're going a little bit up, a little bit down. Your insulin's working well. Your blood sugar is not getting too high or too low. Now on to fatty acid balance. So there are two different types of fats or fatty acids, and they sort of balance each other out. They sort of antagonize each other. And these are omega-6 and omega-3. Omega-6 fatty acids are naturally inflammatory, while omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. Now, the nervous system and the brain thrive in a body that has a very even balance of omega-3 to omega-6. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio, equally balanced. The problem today is that the majority of people have a ratio of 20-to-1 of omega-6 to omega-3. Way too much omega-6 fatty acids in the foods that they're eating. If you are at a 20-to-1 ratio or even something higher than a 1-to-1, you have a much more difficult time making the feel-good chemicals and endorphins that you need to feel graceful, to feel calm, to feel confident. And this manifests in anxiety, depression, all different kinds of mental illnesses. And they're all really just a sign of a greater problem, which is a totally unbalanced ratio of fatty acids. If you have way too many omega-6s, your brain and your nervous system are going to be in an inflamed state the majority of the time. So the easiest thing that you can do to lower this ratio and get it closer to 1-to-1 is to stop eating seed oils. No canola oil, soybean oil, rice oil, you name it, seed or vegetable oils. This is some of the worst food you can eat. If you cook with these fats and oils or eat a lot of foods that are made with them, you are getting way more omega-6 fatty acids than you would ever eat if you were eating food as it appeared in nature, okay? People have to alter soybean, rice, all these things incredibly and distorting these foods and heating them up and compressing them in order to get this much liquid out of it. You would never eat this way in nature, okay? And just so you know, the process that is used to make this stuff is absolutely disgusting, okay? Does that look appetizing to you? I don't think so. I would never eat this if I knew that that's what was going in the food that I was eating, all right? So cut these out. And instead, you want to go for some of these foods. Okay, so in order to increase omega-3 fatty acids, eat more fish. Now, ideally, you want to eat smaller fish, not the larger carnivorous fish. And those would be like sardines and anchovies. Those are the best ones, if you can get over the flavor. Now, you can also have fish oil or cod liver oil. When it comes to the other meat that you're eating, you want to go for grass-fed and pasture-raised meat instead of grain-fed meat, because the grains that are fed to these animals make their muscle meat more omega-6. And in addition to this, eat lots of saturated fat, lots of butter, ghee, and tallow. And yes, you probably heard this myth and lie that saturated fat and cholesterol cause heart disease. This is totally false. This is totally a lie. I can get into this. This is a whole nother argument. I could be here all day. But if you want more information on this, you can look up the Weston A. Price Foundation, Weston A. Price, and they'll have a lot more information debunking these myths. And you can get back to eating foods that have been around for centuries and thousands of years, instead of eating seed oils and vegetable oils that have only been around since the Industrial Revolution. And finally, you can also have an omega-3 supplement that has DHA and EPA. DHA and EPA are fatty acids that are very, very helpful for proper brain function. All right, next up is a very interesting topic, and that is on anti-nutrients, specifically the anti-nutrient lectin. All right, so lectins are basically sticky proteins that you find in plant foods that bind to carbohydrates. And they can be so inflammatory and so harmful in large amounts that they can poke holes in your gut lining and lead to leaky gut, which is basically when you have much more difficulty absorbing your food, absorbing your nutrients. Now, you might be surprised by this. Like, whoa, I had no idea that plants had these things inside of them. And yeah, just because they can't run away from you doesn't mean that they don't want to be eaten. So everything in nature basically is trying to survive. Whether it's going to fight you physically or release a toxin when you eat it, it's going to do its best to survive. So plants use lectins in order to stop herbivores from eating them too frequently. And some of the foods that have the highest amount of lectins are wheat, rice, soy, potatoes, popcorn, peanuts, zucchini. In general, the vegetables that have the highest amount of lectins are those that have seeds in them. So eating too many lectins can cause tremendous inflammation in the gut, which can lead to disturbance in neurotransmitter production, damage to the intestinal villi, and proliferation of pathogenic bacteria. So you get bacterial overgrowth, like I said earlier, from eating too many lectins. And like I said before, leaky gut, poor digestion, which basically leads to poor absorption of nutrients, and then you get deficiencies and even worse health. Now, lectins are not the only anti-nutrients out there that plants are using against you. There are oxalates, saponins, phytates, and much, much more. But if I could recommend one to be most aware of, it would be lectins. All right, so now we're on to minerals. This is such an important topic. The brain is an electromagnetic organ, and minerals are the electromagnetic force carriers of that organ. If you are deficient in specific minerals that you need to run your brain is not going to work right. It just won't. And this leads you to become anxious and depressed and have all sorts of different kinds of mental illnesses. The key to a balanced brain is balancing the minerals that run it. So we're talking calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium are the main ones. There's loads of other different trace minerals as well, but getting these all into proper balance is what allows for good health and good mental health, especially. The brain is broken up into different sections and different parts. So the front brain is the prefrontal cortex. This is the logical reasoning brain, which is basically what makes us uniquely human. This part of the brain is responsible for quieting down the limbic system, which is the midbrain, the emotional mammalian brain. In obsessive compulsive disorder, the limbic system is overactive and hypervigilant. It's way out of control and running the show. If you don't have enough of the right minerals, you will not make enough neurotransmitters that activate the prefrontal cortex and calm down the limbic system. And you then fall into traps of mental illness. The prefrontal cortex can totally shut down and be deactivated if it doesn't have the raw materials that it needs, which you get from the food that you eat. And then the limbic system is all over the place, right? It becomes overactive. This is what causes anxiety. And on top of this, we live in a toxic world. Because of the Industrial Revolution, we have been pumping out harmful, toxic heavy metals for years and years and years. Aluminum, lead, arsenic, cadmium, mercury, nickel, and more. Now, how many minerals that you have in your entire mineral system is what's going to determine whether or not you accumulate these heavy metals or not. So if you have poor mineral status due to a poor diet or stress or loads of other things that might contribute, you are then at risk of heavy metal accumulation and toxicity. And lo and behold, heavy metals are the most toxic substances on Earth, and they can get lodged in your brain and absolutely wreak havoc. OCD has been directly linked to copper toxicity, manganese toxicity, and mercury toxicity, just for example. You have minerals and metals settling in your brain, causing this hypervigilance and causing you to experience all sorts of things that you wouldn't normally if you had proper nutrition, proper physical health. Now, this is a really interesting topic when we get deeper into minerals, metals, and your own personality. So many of these minerals and metals have very specific characteristics that make them what they are, and also who you are, depending on how much of each one you have. So for example, copper is a very good conductor of electricity. We use copper in industry to make little electrical wires, for example. And copper is a very feminine or emotional mineral. People who have a very high copper personality are very creative. They're very emotional. Lots of artists, musicians, right? These are the type of people that have a lot of copper personality. Zinc, on the other hand, is a very strong and flexible metal. And this is a very masculine element. You can also think of this as very reliable, okay? Now, cadmium, an extremely toxic heavy metal, is a hard metal used in steel plating. And if somebody has cadmium toxicity, this usually manifests as a hardened personality, pseudo-masculine, also a very big risk taker. But this metal is very brittle, so it's kind of like a fake masculine if you compare it to like a zinc masculine. Silicone is a very interesting mineral in that it's sort of shiny and smooth. It's like slippery. And if somebody has a very high silicone personality, they're very carefree. It's kind of like you're that surfer bro type dude. Like, everything's cool, man. You know, everything's all right. And finally, lead, another extremely toxic heavy metal, is very rough. Okay, and you can kind of consider this as toxic masculine. Very mean, cruel, nasty, angry, sad, emotional, all over the place. So these are just a few examples, and it goes way, way deeper than this. And just know that how you are experiencing life could totally be dependent on what amounts of minerals and metals you have in your body. If you have too little or too much of any mineral, or you have a toxic load of any different metal, this will manifest in your expression and experience as an individual. Life is elemental, you guys. What do you think is making up your body? It's not nothing. It's made up of elements, of these tiny little molecules that all have different characteristics. And that determines who you are and how you experience life. So here's another interesting piece to working on your nutrition and releasing old traumas from your past. So in order for a person to process and heal past traumas, they need to be prepared for this mentally, emotionally, and physically to be able to re-experience the trauma and release it, to let it go. A lot of the healing modalities that are out there just completely ignore this point, in that maybe the physical body is not ready to talk about how they were abused or to talk about how they were abandoned. Focusing on your diet and giving yourself enough resources to be able to go through that will allow the letting go process to be so much more smooth. And this is a very interesting piece as well, is that your body can even use heavy metals that it might be exposed to and surround and hide the energetic traumas that are stored in the physical body. I'm not sure we'll ever be able to explain why exactly this happens, but this is just another brilliant thing that the body does. At any rate, nourishing and healing the body on a deep level facilitates deep healing and detoxification. And this is basically called trauma retracing on nutritional balancing. If you want more information on this, I'd be happy to answer some questions you have. Email me, sign up for a free call, and we can go over this if you are interested in trying this yourself. And just anecdotally, I've experienced this myself firsthand. In balancing my minerals, improving my nutrition, I have re-experienced old emotions, old traumas that I haven't felt in years. Things have come up into my awareness that have been very striking, but I'll remember this from an earlier time in my life, and then eventually it goes away. Super, super interesting and strange, but it's something I've experienced over and over and over again, and I'm feeling much better when I pass through these phases. I owe my own development as a person directly to this phenomena. It's changed my life. All right, so we've covered a lot here today, but the bottom line that I want you to understand is that if you eat a poor diet or you live an unhealthy, toxic lifestyle, you are taxing your body and leading it to be toxic. If you have a toxic body, your chemistry is going to be off, and your function as a person, as a living organism, is going to be compromised. If your chemistry is imbalanced in your brain and in your body, your experience of life could be totally painful and chaotic because things are distorted. You're seeing things differently than what they actually are. And this can manifest in low, poor self-esteem, poor confidence, anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, you name it, all right? And this is all directly related in huge part to the food that you are eating. If you have things in your brain and in your body, like heavy metals, for example, that are not supposed to be there, it will totally alter your state of consciousness and how you think and how you feel. And if you're wanting to develop as a person, you cannot expand your consciousness if you have a bunch of garbage inside of you. Minerals and metals influence your thought patterns and your personality, as I've shown you before. And remember that your body is your temple. It's your vessel for experiencing life. So if it's damaged, you can expect a bunch of chaos to happen in your life, right? You will experience life so differently as opposed to if you were healthy and balanced. It's entirely possible that you feel insecure or jealous or fearful simply because your brain doesn't have the capacity to feel anything different or better. And all that's really happening is that you have a bunch of toxins blocking the receptors of endorphins, of feel-good chemicals, serotonin, vasopressin, oxytocin, dopamine, right? That is how you experience a fun, peaceful, graceful life. And it could all change if you heal your body and detoxify your body of the garbage that you've been exposed to. So there's a lot of potential solutions and a lot of things that I can give you, but I don't want to overwhelm you. So here are some basic solutions that you can get started on right away. Number one, stop eating processed foods and garbage seed oils, okay? Get them out of your house, throw them out of your pantry, never get them at the store again. And then in addition, don't eat out at restaurants or get fast food. Make as many meals at home as you can, because then you know what's going in your food. You have more control over what food you're eating. And you might actually enjoy it a bit more than some of the food that you're getting out at restaurants and fast food. At the very least, try to eat a paleo diet of pre-industrial, pre-agricultural foods. So basically, that's like meat and vegetables, okay? Meat and vegetables, you can get some butter and other animal fat like ghee and tallow. You can throw some olive oil and coconut oil in there as well. And you want to limit grains, starches, and sugars as much as you can. And beyond that, continue to educate yourself on nutrition because it really is so crucial to your quality of life. And if you want help with this, please reach out. I would be happy to teach you more and give you some resources on this. And I go into way more detail on all of the things that I've covered in this video in my nutrition and gut-brain course for retroactive jealousy on my school platform. Okay, so if you're interested in joining that and getting access to my courses, you can find the link in the description below. But I promise you, if you commit to this and you start eating cleaner, you will feel better. You will feel so remarkably different. It will change your life, and it could totally change your experience in your relationship and catapult you to a new level that you were not even aware was possible. All right, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you need more help in overcoming retroactive jealousy and OCD, sign up for a free consult in the description box below. You can get access to my courses on the school group link in the description as well. And that's it. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care.